Hello, Mr.Gobbo here. Welcome to another battle report. This time I will recount the awaited grudge match against Pinktaco and his Saurian Ancients. We are playing with the latest edition, 0.10, and with a roster size of 2500 points. I apologize if I get the names of the units wrong, because they just changed everything with the latest update. We rolled for deployment type. I got the diagonal deployment. Not a personal favorite of mine, because that potentially gives me less time to shoot his monsters and powerful units. And then we got the secondary objective, hold the ground. The objective being the central forest. Those big white pieces of cardboard are forests, now you know. Our separate army lists will now be shown on the screen. Feel free to pause the video to get more time to read them. My opponent's list is generally the same as before, with more minor tweaks as he's still searching for his favorite build. My list is not a pure Gobbo list. This was because I wanted to try the war ability of an Orc General before it was nerfed too much. My list basically looks like the typical net list from Warhammer Fantasy Battles the 8th edition, but now with my favorite experiment of the day, a unit of 20 Orcs Goblin skirmishers with the Poison Banner. As for spells, with my level 3 Cave Gobbo with the Path of Shadows, I got the signature spell, number 4, 5 and 6. I especially like the potential combination of Shadow Miasma and Devouring Darkness. If I ever get those two off against my opponent's combat units, they will be decimated. The number 6 spell, Mind Razor, will be especially cruel if used by my Feral Orcs, since all of their hitting attacks would wound, and they have a lot of attacks with additional hand weapons. My level 2 Feral Orc Shaman took the path of the Big Green Gods. He got the signature spell, and number 2, Bashing Fists. Combine Here We Go with Mind Razor, and we have a devastating combo. My level 1 Cave Gobbo with a Path of Little Green Gods got really lucky and rolled the one spell I wanted, Blessing of the Mother Spider. Suddenly 50 Cave Gobbo poisoned short bow shots becomes scary. Now, take a look at our deployment. My opponent got to deploy first, but as you can see, he has a lot of drops and a lot of chaff units, and thus he could control the deployment phase, getting the best matchups. He has 2 monsters, one of them a BSB on my left flank, and the 2 combat units centrally deployed, protected by lots of chaff units, and buffed by a monster with a poison aura. In this picture, he had yet to put the big frog with his shrine guards. Now, for my deployment. I tried to stay compact in order to maintain my leadership bubble, and to spread out my artillery a bit, so I couldn't just overrun from one piece to another. My general, Drumbag Skullcracker, is found in my Iron Orc unit, recognized by his reddish armor. My Battle Standard Bearer and Feral Orc Shaman are naturally deployed with my Feral Orcs. The 2 Cave Gobbo Shamans are found in my big Cave Gobbo horde. And now for the big battle plan. Number 1, my Forest Goblins use the cover of the forest to annoy his skinks and to block his combat blocks with some stubborn gits. Number 2, soften up his army with shooting and magic and kill the monsters. Number 3, hold formation, protect flanks. Number 4, war! I don't know what happens there. Number 5, victory! Enough with the talking! Get to the fighting, you stupid git! The Orcs and Goblins got the first turn, so it's now their turn 1. In the movement phase, I had no charges, so the wrecking team they move up into the forest, failing one of the dangerous terrain tests, taking a wound. The Forest Gobbos move into the forest to be stubborn. The rest of the army mostly stays put. I think I nudged my Iron Orcs and Ferals a little forward. In the magic phase, I got off the boosted Mystifying Miasma on a lucky roll, giving the Sky Rider unit to the right -3 to weapon skill, movement, ballistic skill and initiative. In the shooting phase, the Forest Gobbos shoot at some skinks, killing 1. The Stone Thrower aims at the Tyroscutus. It reminds me of the Greek word for cheese, tiri. Okay. The rock drifts off and kills 3 shrine guards or temple guards. The Goblobber / thing gets lucky and kills 1 of the spearbacks, the one on the right side. And that was my turn 1. Saurian Ancients turn 1. In the movement phase, he moves his entire army closer, eager for the kill. The right Skyrider unit is impeded by the reduction to their movement value and don't move as far as they could have. In the magic phase, the big frog casts a damaging spell, killing 2 Iron Orcs. The frog then casts another damaging spell, this time through a Skink Priest on the left wolf chariot, giving it 2 wounds, and finally the Path of Death signature spell finishes off the chariot. He then gives the Shrine Guards a 5-up regen and the Forest Goblins -1 leadership. In the shooting phase, the 9 skinks show the Forest Gobbos how it's done, and kill 3 of the Gobbos, even though they were in cover by the forest, long range, and skirmishers. Impressive on a 7-up. And that was the Saurian Ancients turn 1. Orcs and Goblins turn 2. In the movement phase, the Iron Orcs declare charge on the skinks to the left of the Forest Gobbos, and the skinks run away, losing 4 to dangerous terrain. The Iron Orcs naturally fail their charge, rolling a 2 and a 1. The right Wolf Chariot charges the skinks on the right flank, needing to roll 6 in their Swift Stride, but fail because of a poor roll. The Wrecking Team tries to leave the forest, but doesn't quite manage it, getting another wound through dangerous terrain tests. In the magic phase, there was no notable magic. In the shooting phase, the Git Skewer kills the left Skink Priest on a lucky hit, and the Goblover kills off 1 Skyrider on the left flank and puts 1 wound on another in the same unit. I forgot to take a picture of this, but my right Git Skewer killed off 1 Skyrider, and they failed their panic test, fleeing away from the Git Skewer. And that was my turn 2. Saurian Ancients turn 2. In the movement phase, my opponent declares a charge on my Forest Gobbos with some of his skinks, and then declares a charge on my left Git Skewer with some skinks and a Skyrider unit. Only the Skyriders make it to my Git Skewer, so that was lucky. The skinks who were fleeing before rally, and the right Skyrider unit rallies too. He moves up the rest of his units, keeping the Tyroscutus Bigus in the middle for that very handy Poison Aura buff. The other monsters get terrifyingly close to my left flank. I know I'm like this. This is not going to be pleasant for me. In the magic phase, I think he used a boosted fireball to kill off my last Wolf Chariot. In the shooting phase, the poisoned javelins inflict the last wound on the Wrecking Team. Dead. In the close combat phase, the flank charging skinks kill off 6 of my Forest Gobbos, but the stubborn Gits stick. The Skyriders kill 2 Gobbo crew members, but the last Git passes his leadership check on a double 1. Determined little fella. And that was the Saurian Ancients turn 2. Orcs and Goblins turn 3. In the movement phase, I declare a mighty Warg with my Iron Orc Warboss Drumback Skullcracker. The Ferals declare a charge on the Temple Guards, but fail to roll 5 with their Swift Stride. Bummer. The Iron Orcs declare charge in the skinks to the left, who flee, then redirect their charge towards the Totem Warriors or Saurians, but they also fail to reach their intended target. Extra bummer! Wasted Warg. Now I'm all out in the open, out of position. This will be a costly failure. In the magic phase, I get off the boosted Mystifying Miasma on the Shrine Guards, giving them -1 to movement, weapon skill, initiative. So this is to prevent a potential counter charge now that my savages or ferals have failed their charge. My level 1 Gobbo gets off the poison spell on my Cave Gobbo Horde. Chaff killing will commence in 3, 2, 1. Shooting phase. Daga daga daga! The entire skink unit is destroyed. I'm very pleased. My right Git Skewer puts 3 wounds on the biggest stickers, and the Rock Hurler finishes the job with a direct hit. Perfect. In the close combat phase, the Forest Gobbos hold a staring contest with the skinks, no casualties on either side. The reason I'm not reforming is to block the charge of the Totem Warriors, to not give them too much room. The Skyriders kill off the last Gobbo crew member. Git Skewer, gone. But he was brave. Oh no. Take a look at the battlefield. This doesn't look good. I clench my buttocks and prepare for the worst. And that was the end of the Orcs Goblins turn 3. And now it's time for the Saurian Ancients turn 3. In the movement phase, here it comes, the devastating multi-charge. Ouch. My Iron Orcs are so dead. The Saurians, the Tyrannosaurus, BSB thing, or Carnosaur, and the Stygiosaur, and the Spearback, charge into the Iron Orcs and my general. They all succeed in reaching my Iron Orcs. The right Skyrider unit comes too close to my Cave Gobbos, releasing the Mad Git, who then kills them all! In the magic phase, he tries some hexes on my Iron Orcs, but I use all my dice on the first spell and then use my scroll on the next. I only have a slim chance of surviving one round of combat, but it would be even slimmer if he could hex me or buff his units. No shooting in the shooting phase if I remember correctly, and in the close combat phase the Forest Gobbos lose one but also manage to kill one. I win because of my musician, but the skinks stick. The Forest Gobbos, no longer able to block the Totem Warriors, decide to reform to be better able to handle the skinks. My opponent absolutely destroys me, but I get lucky with the challenge and succeed in my Leadership 6 role. Luckily, the BSB was within range for much needed reroll. Phew! And now it's time for Orcs and Goblins turn 4. In the movement phase, the Ferals try once more to get that charge in on the Temple Guards. Second time's the charm, they say. They need to get their exposed flank away from the doomed Iron Orcs and dangerous monsters, and fast! This time they did it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, my Mad Git. He goes through my Feral Orcs, killing 2, then kills 3 skinks, and finally killing 6 of my Forest Gobbos. Just what I needed. Dear Mad Git, please go kill yourself, you sad excuse of a goblin. And it seems that drove him to suicide. He failed his dangerous terrain test in the forest. Thank the green gods. My Cave Gobbo unit fails their rerollable swift reform test and turn to face all the monsters and probably soiling their cloaks as they do that. In the magic phase, I knew what I had to do. Getting off the Mind Razor spell, I rolled 4 dice, getting an irresistible. Perfect! I then rolled 8 on the miscast table, putting a wound on my level 3 and level 2. I then used the law attribute on the Iron Orcs, giving them a chance to inflict some more wounds in that crucial combat. I also got off the boosted Magic Fist spell on my Feral Orc BSB. In the shooting phase, my Goblobber inflicts 2 wounds on the Skyriders, killing 1. In the close combat phase, my Forest Goblins remain steadfast. The Shrine Guards kill my level 2 Shaman and 7 Feral Orcs, but I killed 17 of them. The stubborn bodyguards stick, however. Now for the real killer. I challenge with my general because I want him to go out with a bang. I also pick an additional hand weapon for my Iron Orcs, so I get to strike before losing most of my attacks. My general puts 2 wounds on the Dinosaur, saving 5 wounds on a 4-up and then a 4-up ward save again. The Tyrannosaurus or Carnosaur would have inflicted D3 wounds on him, so that was really lucky. My opponent totally flops his rolls, and I end up losing only 5 Iron Orcs and actually 1 combat by 2. Yeah! However, my opponent sticks with all of his units, of course. And that was the end of my turn 4. Saurian Ancients turn 4. In the movement phase, the Skinks charge into my Forest Goblins, but roll miserably and fail their charge. The fleeing Skinks in the left corner rally. In the magic phase, he buffs the Shrine Guards with a 5-up regen and gives +1 strength and toughness on the Saurians. In the shooting phase, he didn't have any shooting. In the close combat phase, my general almost kills the Tyrannosaurus, giving it 2 wounds, but unfortunately, it manages to save one of them. A pity! My Iron Orcs then get overwhelmed by the Strength 5, Toughness 5 Totem Warriors, and break from combat, and are promptly overrun by the Stegosaur. The Totem Warriors and Tyrannosaurus decide to pivot instead. My Forest Gobbo champion is killed, but the Gobbos still stick. I forgot to take a picture of this, but my Ferals killed all but 2 of his Temple Guards. They will definitely be destroyed in the next round of combat. I don't know what to think. I will certainly kill his general, but what with his remaining units and monsters? I'm running out of time. The battle can still go both ways. And that was the end of the Saurian Ancients turn 4. And now it's getting nerve-wracking. The Orcs and Goblins turn 5. In the movement phase, my Cave Gobbo horde remains stationary, being too scared to engage the monsters. In the magic phase, I think I get to reduce the movement of the Saurians by 3, reducing the likelihood of a nasty charge. In the shooting phase, my Goblobber hits both the Tyrannosaurs and Totem Warriors, killing the BSB thing! And killing only one Totem Warrior, but I'll take it. My Cave Gobbos kill the last Skyrider, and it makes the Stygiosaurus flee off the table! The tide is turning. My 2 monsters down in 1 lucky shooting phase. In the close combat phase, the last 2 Forest Gobbos are killed. They lasted for a long time, but they were poor in close combat. He then pivots the victorious Skinks. The Feral Orcs kill the remaining Shrine Guards and also kill the big fat frog. They pivot to face the Totem Warriors. The destruction of their general proves too much for the Skinks, and they run away from the site of the slaughter. And that was the exciting end of the Orcs and Goblins turn 5. At this point, both my opponent and I are sitting wondering what just happened. He was winning, and then 1 lucky shooting phase, and 1 lucky close combat phase, and then it has all been turned around. We're dumbstruck. I love this game, how things can just change in a heartbeat. And now for the Saurian Ancients turn 5. In the movement phase, his Totem Warriors declare a glorious charge on my Feral Orcs, but they fail to roll high enough. I think they needed to roll 7. The scared Skinks continue fleeing, and they lose 3 to dangerous terrain tests. In the magic phase, he rolls poorly for his amount of dice, and I get lucky and dispel his casting attempt. No shooting in the shooting phase, and no close combat in the close combat phase. And that was the end of the demoralized Saurian Ancients turn 5. And it's time for the Orcs and Goblins turn 6. In the movement phase, I was joking and talking to my opponent, and I actually made a little Freudian slip. I was saying, don't worry, I will put you out your misery with as much pain, as little pain as possible. So, naturally, I charge with my Feral Orcs, and with my Cave Gobbo horde, both units get in, and it's time to kill. In the magic phase, I got off the boosted Mystifying Miasma and reduced the stats of the Totem Warriors by 2. In the shooting phase, the Git Skewer hits and kills the last Skink Priest. Of course, the Goblobber kills 4 Skinks and the last one alive runs away. In the close combat phase, the Cave Gobbos and Feral Orcs kill all the Totem Warriors before they even get to strike. The Feral Orcs naturally overrun. And that was the end of the Orcs and Goblins turn 6. It's time for the Saurian Ancients turn 6, and the last turn of the game. In the movement phase, the lone Skink who fled because of shooting flees off the table. The Skink in the ruin rallies. In the magic phase, there was no magic, no shooting, and no close combat. Done. Victory! Use the best! War! A glorious victory to the Orcs and Goblins by some 1900 points. Some afterthoughts. I made some mistakes and gambled too much with my war. I fell for the flee move used by his chaff units. Maybe my army didn't have enough chaff units to counter all of his units, but through sheer luck, I managed to turn the battle around and secure a win. If you have any tactical feedback or just comments in general, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to comment on the video, and I hope you enjoyed my battle report and seeing another victory for the green tide. I should go. Mr. Gobbo out.